Bases dropped on a new week of soccer down here, Soccer's Morning Show. John here, you there. And it's our first, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should. Yeah, maybe I should do. It's our first Reaction Monday of the year. There you go. It's our first Reaction Monday. You've had your breaking news sounder. It's the first Reaction Monday of the year. Great to see everybody at Ghost Train, by the way. Great to see the Magic City Brigade who was there. Will Secor made it down from Huntsville. Terminus Legion was there. Thanks to Birmingham Legion, first and foremost. Jay Heaps for hanging out. And Keeler Hodges from the USL show. Tyler Pilgrim from Scarves and Spikes. I know I'm going to mess that up sooner or later. Dirty South SOC, our friends over there. And Jason came in. Maddie was running the show. And so it was fun. Once again, thanks to Scott Flood and the Flood Project for all of that. And it was a great time that we had once again going to Ghost Train's new location. It had been a while. It had been a year or so since we'd been there. And they moved and they've expanded, which is always a good thing. And they had a space when you walk in, if you can find the parking lot and crossing over the railroad tracks. You walk in, there's an open space where you can bring your pets, all these kinds of things. Then you can kind of eat and you can hang out. There's a pizza place that's attached. You can get pizza and you can have all the accoutrement that is on the menu in a liquid sense from our friends at Ghost Train. And then in the back, which was where we were, which is traditionally where we should be put, was where we got to kind of hold court for a little over an hour. Very, very fun. Thanks to our friends at Ghost Train. Thanks to Scott Flood for orchestrating all of that. And we'll keep you posted on if something's going to go down this weekend in Athens. Don't know yet. That is a TBD. So it is, once again, Reaction Monday. Our first one of the year. We'll get into opening kickoff, and then we'll get into reactions here coming up in just a little bit. But first preseason action. There's a lot to talk about. And let's see who's already dialed in this morning. It is Dell. Dell is in. And let's see, Tom is in this morning, as he traditionally is. Ricky, yes, Iraq and Jordan was madness. So morning, Ricky, morning, Tom, morning, Alex, morning, Dell, morning, Nix, morning, Alex Basine. So good morning to each and every one of you. So once again, it is the first Reaction Monday of the year, and lay it all out. Reactions, over, under, on par for Atlanta United in the 2-1 win over Birmingham Legion. And so I'm going to go ahead and kind of twist things around a little bit. So opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code, by the way, for those of you who want to go chasing after these kinds of things. And that is a better QR code than the one that I orchestrated. So we're going with Abby's QR code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. For those of you that kick off your day with Kickoff Coffee, see what I did there? Use the code SOCCERDOWNHERE15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it in youth games, youth initiatives, stuff that they have earmarked as cool to continue to grow the game. So, once again, SOCCERDOWNHERE15. You get 15% off. They take 10%, reinvested into the youth game, youth initiatives, by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So, Jared is in early this morning. How long do we have you, sir, before the real world intervenes?
A little over an hour, probably.
Oh, wow. Okay. Maddie is in charge of the ones and twos.
Yeah, I'm going to get out of here before Prem and proper.
Okay. So Bart will be in at 10 o'clock shortly thereafter. Maddie's in charge of the ones and twos, and she gathered all of the sound. She got to go hang out in the media scrums and discuss stuff with Aiden McFadden and Nicholas Firmino. We're going to play that. So we're going to bring Maddie in and let Maddie discuss what she thought from a 30,000 feet, Maddie, for those that missed it, with what you were able to let everybody know about at Ghost Train. Now that you've had another day to think about it, has anything changed? Has anything altered? What's on your mind?
I mean, nothing has been altered. I think it was a pretty good performance of at least just seeing what we had. Obviously, it's preseason, and I don't think you can really judge what's going to happen based off the entire season, based off the preseason game.
What?
As we've learned from our friends over Messy at Friends, we've learned that. But I thought it was a really good showcase of obviously some of the newer players. Like we got to see more of Gregerson. We got to see him a bit more in that back line, how he would look. But I really liked getting to see, and I said it in our live show. I said it, I'll say it again. I really liked getting to see the Atlanta United 2 players. I also loved the academy players. I loved getting to see how they incorporated in with the first team. And I mean, just Nick Firmino is just gonna kill it in MLS. And I'm so excited to see what he does in MLS. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch.
Jared, early reactions from the first ever, it's the first ever preseason game for Atlanta United in 24.
It's preseason.
Yes,
Dude,
exactly.
I'm already tired of the discourse. We haven't even started it yet. I don't have the cholesterol for this anymore.
I don't.
Not
I
kid.
think I may. You can have some of mine.
Yeah, I mean, your starters went out and they played well.
And then the monsoon hit.
Yeah, you got what you wanted. You got your striker off the deck. You got your backup number 10, who's a different kind of number 10 than what you're going to get out of Thiago Almada. Nick Firmino is a different kind of player, but you got him going, and he tried to blow out Matt Van Okel's knee ligaments as best he could. They tried to do it twice. He made a kick save going the other way before that second goal. It was stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It was very impressive. Matt Van Okel still got it. So you'd love to see it. But your starters did well. The middle section was kind of weird, but also, the weather was a thing. You get a weird deflected goal. And the thing that I liked most is that you made your kids defend a lead late. That's great because you need them to suffer. And it's not a sadistic thing. It's a thing where you want to put them in situations with, hey, you're going to have to defend this lead because you're going to have games like that. The first team with the second team with the academy, and you're going to have to defend this lead, and we're going to throw you out there against a bunch of USL guys. And look, Birmingham as a USL team is veteran laden. They're tough. They're physical. And they are going to put you through it. And so that was probably my favorite part, is that you had to ask the kids to hold on. And yeah, a little bit dicey. That's okay. It's okay that it was a little bit dicey. And that you're wondering, hey, okay, what can you do better? Great. Look at what you can do better next time, because it's a semi-controlled environment, and then it's a friendly. You're able to put out the group that you wanted to put out there. But you asked them to have to hold a lead, and they did it. Doesn't really matter how you get the car across the line so much as you get the car across the line. And that's what you did in that situation. And you get to see those guys in pressure-filled situations where they're going to be pinned down in a rough field in a hostile environment. So that was my big takeaway, was you got to put the kids out there in a tough situation and you made them adapt. And then they stood up to it. Places you can improve, absolutely. But you made them adapt.
All right, Maddie, walk us through it. You've got 3 sound bites to choose from, 2 from Aiden McFadden and 1 from Nicholas Firmino. Where do you want to go first?
Ooh, very, very good interviews, I will say, with both of them. It was a lot of fun getting to talk to both of them just a bit after the game. Before I get into it, no, I still have not received my Birmingham jersey from Josie. So I don't know if he listens to this, but if you're listening, I want the jersey. I want it really bad.
You want the Lady Electra.
I want it so bad. Anyway, but that's not the point.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll probably start with that Nick Firmino one, just because he was the first one that we talked to. It was a lot of questions. Obviously, he had the first goal. He got his first goal with the team in preseason. It was a beautiful goal. The presence that he had, we talked a bit about that. That was like a bit more of the fuller interview that we talked a bit about that. But one of the highlights I did pick up on was Nick Firmino's team chemistry in the preseason, and how that kind of incorporates well with AU2, and how he was playing with some of his former teammates and friends, and kind of that dynamic as well.
So here's Nicholas Firmino and Maddie. after Nick was done in the monsoon.
Great, guys have integrated well. We're still not fully used to each other on the field, but that was a good 30 minutes to get used to each other, and it'll only get better as the game's going.
You got the chance to play with some of your Atlanta United too friends and teammates as well. What has that experience been like in practice these past couple days leading up to this game?
It's great. The chemistry is already there. With guys like Aiden and Luke that I played a lot of minutes with, and to be out here and get 30 with them first game of the season was felt comfortable.
Yeah.
And there you go. So that's Nicholas Firmino. And now it's left on the board of your conversation with Aiden McFadden. So what do you want to start with Aiden?
Ooh, we'll start with we'll go Aiden McFadden on him like switching positions and adapting. He kind of told us that he has had a lot of different positions he's had to play, and just adapting to those. And one of the biggest things he told us is that he just loves soccer, so he really doesn't bother him, obviously, but you have that sort of like that struggle with adapting to these different types of positions.
Aiden and Maddie from Birmingham.
You said you had multiple different position shifts. How has that challenge been like for you to kind of adjust to these different positions and kind of get to that role?
Honestly, it's exciting. I like playing, so if there's any position that they can throw me in, let's do it. I'll figure it out. The way we've been playing with our right back is, a bit different this year. We tuck into the midfield at times, but I love playing in the middle of the park as well, so that's fun. But I've also been playing some left back at times if we play with wing backs. Gladly do that as well. So really, whatever's asked of me, I'm excited about it, and I'll figure it out.
When you're pushing forward.
And there you go, the early rounds with Aiden McFadden. And Maddie, you also kind of got to talk to him about the guy that was off his left shoulder a little bit. That was a fun one.
Yes, we got to. So we were there obviously with Tyler from Dirty South Soccer and Doug Robertson from AJC, and I think he asked about just a bit about his relationship with Gregerson and kind of how that dynamic has been, especially in that back line, and kind of how that has been looking. So he gave us this. I talked about it in the live, but he gave us a pretty awesome quote in this one, which I liked a lot. So yeah.
Aiden and the big dude with Maddie and Tyler and Doug.
It's good, yeah. I mean, he's a great guy. He went and got food early on, and he's honestly, just a nice guy, relaxed. Norwegians are awesome. Yeah, I really like the guy. So it's
I can
nice.
see that on a TIFO later this year.
No, we get on great, and I'm excited to see what he can bring to the team. He's already, you can see what he can bring out in the field and off the field in the locker room. Really nice guy. So it's a great time.
This was
There you go. So I think that has developed itself into a hashtag and or a t-shirt. Norwegians are awesome. I don't think I'm far off in that. Am I? I don't think I am.
I don't think so.
Norwegians are awesome. The early returns from Aiden McFadden and Stian Gregerson.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Dirty South Soccer already has a shirt with the quote on it, so y'all can go get that. I saw that yesterday, and I was laughing a little bit. That was very funny. I was tempted to buy one.
Well, hey, I mean, if you want to jump on those kinds of things, Norwegians are awesome. So, yeah, there already is. Four card says there is a T-shirt. We got to dig this up. So yeah,
this is going to start a war between the other Scandinavian nations. They're going to feel like they're awesome too. They're going to feel
then they got to bring players over to be a part of Atlanta United, because then you can sit there. Well, why don't we just go ahead and say Scandinavia is awesome and get it over with?
Because the Danes are going to have a problem with this.
Hey, that is a Dane issue.
But we had it. We had a great Dane here. He put us in a Super Bowl in '98.
Yeah,
just different kind of football, but we had a great Dane.
I know. And by the way, Martin Anderson, when it comes to doing interviews, he is definitely the guy that will try to get you off your game the second you start asking questions and have the cutaway. When you're trying to do a sit down with him and you do the reverse cutaway where you're just trying to get the reaction shot of yourself to kill time and sit there and bridge, jump cuts and things. Morton will make the funniest faces, and he will try to get you off of your game while you're trying to do the straight face head nod. Does that every single time.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Honestly, well, it's so funny. Like when you're interviewing, at least in that aspect, I always try to be a little conversational and try to actually react to what they're saying. There's so many instances where you see interviewers just smiling and nodding yes,
yes,
I agree, but not actually listening to what they're saying. So it's just, but it's funny. Honestly, I would love it. I think it'd make some really good reactions, and I'm not opposed to it. I think it'd be fun.
Jarrett, we got the chance there was mix and match, and it was interesting to see how Gonzalo Pineda and the staff wanted to see things with shift 1, shift 2, and shift 3. I know that we're going to be spending a lot of this season discussing Atlanta United 2 and the youngins and the academy as a part of the dynamic of everything. It was fun to see Cooper Sanchez out there without any kind of fear whatsoever. In other words, Cooper Sanchez being Cooper Sanchez. You had Rocket Rita out there. You had Ashton Gordon out there. And, I mean, Ashton Gordon, he was absolutely, skying on set pieces, and said that third group that was in there for that final 30 minutes, there are a lot of folks out there that Atlanta United fans are going to be learning about, hopefully, over the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, and this is going to be a big year for a number of those guys. Because you have different expectations for different guys coming out of the academy right now. For the Luke Brennans of the world, you're expected to come in to 2024 and be a problem at the MLS Next Pro level.
Mm-hmm.
Like the you don't know how many minutes you're going to get on the first team. Again, the winger room is very busy. But the conversation, in my opinion, should be, hey, I don't know how many minutes you're going to get here. While you're down with the twos, I need you to be MLS Next Pro best 11 caliber. Same with Firmino, because you know he can do it. And Firmino was that caliber last year. He's one of the best players in the nation at that level. He can do that. And he's going to get time this year, just if for no other reason, like with schedule compression, with international duty, there's going to be situations where you're going to need him. And you're going to need him to be what he's capable of being. That's fine. Guys like Ashton Gordon, Rocket Rita, yeah, you're gonna need them to get a cup of coffee at bare minimum, and you're gonna be asking them, hey, in training, I need you to make it impossible for me to leave you off the sheet. That's where I need you to make it as difficult as possible for me to leave you off the sheet for Tuesday games, and then I don't even want to think about U.S. Open Cup because it gives me a headache.
Yeah.
And where everything stands there, but those would be situations where you would look at them as well. Your expectations are different for all of them in terms of like tangible and targeted real goals in terms of minutes, actions, that sort of thing. But they're all going to have different goals, and they're all going to need to exceed them because this academy group that's coming through has a lot of potential. Now, whether that potential gets reached, that's tricky. And the thing is, like, some of those guys, Nicholas Firmino is an example of this. Some of those guys might not hit that right away. Like, Firmino was homegrown for New England.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't stick. Like, just didn't. He goes and plays USL League One for a bit after he doesn't stick as a homegrown for New England.
He was with the Murder Owls, wasn't he?
He was with the Murder Owls.
Union Omaha.
Who's getting a new stadium, by the way.
Downtown gig.
But he comes here, and now he's kind of unlocked it. And, yeah, you're going to get guys like that who, might be homegrowns here, who it might not stick for them. Jackson Conway.
Mm-hmm.
If you told me Jackson Conway going to Charleston this year, hello, Dell, puts up a bunch of goals and puts up a bunch of dirty work, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. It doesn't always work perfectly where you land the first time, but all these guys need to be making strides this year because it's these 15, 16, 17-year-old kids that are coming through right now. This potential is very good, and they're very scrappy and very tough. You talk about Cooper Sanchez, Rocket Rita, Aiden Torres, all of them very, very scrappy, very, very willing to fight you, but also very good on the ball.
Yep.
And they all play with a degree of swagger about them. and that will be very interesting to see how much they're able to force their way onto the field for either one of these teams this year.
Maddie, you're coming up in about an hour with Prem and Proper. What are you bringing? What are you bringing to the table with you and Drew in the street fight that is going to be our discussion about England?
Oh, geez. There's so much stuff that happened. I mean, one of the biggest things that I think we have to talk about is the Wolves and West Brom game.
Yeah.
That was craziness and
Yeah.
full stage of hooliganism, as you can clearly see.
Yeah.
That, I mean, a lot of really good FA Cup games. I was really impressed with what I saw from like a lot of just some of the games that was going on. Obviously, wasn't able to watch many of them because I was traveling to and
We were
from
kind of
Birmingham.
busy, yeah.
But I did some research last night, just looking at a couple of them. But I mean, some of the games were very, very, very good. So I might have to go back and rewatch some of them to like, really see them, because I really do want to watch a couple of them.
Yeah, Maidstone and Ipswich. I know we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the stupidity down here that happened in Port Vale with Bart. And we'll probably also talk about stupidity down here with West Brom and Wolves and their rivalry that spilled over, and it was just flat out stupid. So we got stuff to talk about with Bart, with VAR and reffing and all this kind of stuff. That's at 10 o'clock. Maddie and Drew coming back at 10:30. Maddie, we will see you then.
I will see y'all then.
There you go. So that's Maddie. Maddie Crew's in charge of the ones and twos, and so she's letting us know what everything else is going on if things slip by all of our collective thought patterns. So yeah, Maddie's producing the morning show. She has the keys to the kingdom, and we're all in trouble. So there you go. Let's take a peek at everything that you guys have said so far in the Twitch pitch. Yeah, Dell, it was nice to catch up with Jay Heaps. And Jay has been with us every single time that we have been in Birmingham. And it's been great to see how he has, as president and GM, his part in the growth of Legion there. So it's always fun to catch up with Jay. And I couldn't, Jarrett, resist. When you look at rundowns, with starting 11s, and you see all these trialists, and you could probably, if you are, calling the match like Mike and Jason were, you get the early intel. You know who these trialists are going to be and whether or not they're going to stick, and you can actually identify them by names. But in the rundowns of the starting 11s in each of the periods, it's trialist so and so, trialist 8 in the number that he's wearing, trialist 25, trialist 2, 4, 6, whatever. But to be able to have like 7 or 8 trialists in your rundown, man, Jay Heaps really did get the trialist family all gassed up and ready to go. You want to talk about 8 is enough? Jay Heaps had that locked down. But no, it was fun to catch up with Jay like we always do.
Yeah,
I guarantee
it was.
I guarantee it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah, I'm also typing.
You and your real world dribble.
I know, right? But this is the thing to remember, though, when you play these preseason friendlies like this, is that with a guy like Jay and with a team like Birmingham that is building something bigger and bigger every year for that community out there in a city like Birmingham that continues to grow.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah, you're bringing in trialists, and when we think about this that we do the same thing, I think, when we think about any game, where we think about, well, how did you execute your plan? We'll do this in the regular season, and I will go blue in the face about it. How did you execute your plan? How did you do your job? Well, the other team has a plan and a job too. Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yes.
Birmingham has a plan too. Like, they're bringing in trials. They're seeing who they can get to be part of this project. I also like to believe that Dell watched this so he could do advanced scouting for Birmingham Charleston games.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also working to see, who can be part of this project for this year, who can be a problem, who can be something we look forward to. Who are we looking at thinking, I really like that person. Maybe they're a year away. So let's save their contact information. Maybe we don't bring them in this year, but let's let's keep an open line of communication with them. Let's see where everyone's at.
Yeah.
So, but Birmingham is doing more than just, yes, it's okay to be a spy, Del. It's okay. But Birmingham is like a lot of these USL clubs. I mean, they are growing at a steady rate, and it doesn't have to be exponential growth. We don't have to measure everything by immediate, instant success. Because if you're making those steady growths and those steady inroads into the community in the long term, that benefits everybody. So good on them for continuing to grow it, continuing to evolve. And it is very cool to see Jay Heaps there doing this because, I mean, for a lot of MLS people, when you get there are times where when you get out of MLS, it's kind of like passing through the event horizon of a black hole.
Yep.
We have this image of them. And the last image we have is them at the edge of the event horizon before they pass out of sight and mind. And I think for a lot of people, the event horizon for Jay Heaps was the New England thing.
Yep.
Whereas Jay's gone down to Birmingham and continued to help build something really cool and really fun. And I'm glad he's getting that chance to do that and to put his fingerprints all over something like this in different ways.
Yeah, I'm wondering what Shooter's last thoughts of Jay Heaps are. And we're a morning show, not a family show. But so, Shooter, you have been officially warned. We caught up with Jay Heaps over the weekend. So, what do you remember about Jay Heaps, Shooter? Let us know on the Twitch pitch. Nix is trying to still process his preseason opener thoughts. He always has a thought pattern. He says, I've always got my thoughts. Such high expectations, then the matches happen. Tom, looking forward to Athens, hoping Sleesh has his visa by then. And Nick said that Dax was kind of disappointing. But at the same time, I mean, remember, once again, we do call this a Reaction Monday for a reason. I mean, it's all about those, communication levels and things like that. And so, and you're also looking at, but the touch that Dax had that created the turnover, that created the goal, and he knew it too. So when you have 3 periods and juggled 11s and things like that, once again, we always talk about these kinds of things in preseason. It's odds are that you're going to be paired eventually with the folks that you're going to be spending most of your time with. But no, Dax was kicking himself after the fact too, and you could see that there on the pitch at Protective. No updates on Sleesh's visa yet. Have not heard about any update with Sleesh and a visa. Alex, when was your name used in vain in Birmingham? Still deciding on our penance. I don't know if it might have been a Newcastle reference. I don't remember because, like I said, it was an hour and 20 minutes, and so I'm trying to recall everything in an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah. And Dell says Dax said he was still trying to knock the rust off. He realized it. And yes, so Tom can't take a whole lot from that one, given the format and all the changing and everything and the damn monsoon. I mean, literally, late in the first period, whatever you want to call it, first third, starts to get those big southern raindrops. And I was in the supporters section in the end zone just to kind of get the feel for things and kind of see things from ground level. And you started to get those big raindrops. And literally after like the first 3 big raindrops, by the way, the cable weather outlet that is the most prominent one on our systems, I download, like I said, like I told the folks at Ghost Train, I went to their forecast for Birmingham. And it said basically 17% chance of rain that afternoon in those time slots and decreasing from there. The 17% sure as hell turned into 100%, and it sure as hell turned into a monsoon. I legitimately thought they were going to have to stop the match, but they didn't. And you end up with just crowds heading for shelter and heading for cover and all this kind of stuff to the end of the first period and the beginning of the second. So you had that working for you as well. And then you get field changes and Derek, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. And so, yeah, it was pretty bad. But then once everything came through and it turned out in the 50s and no one was prepared for colder weather. So there you go. Nick's weird that Gregerson was playing right center back. Thought he was a lefty. And maybe just stretching them. And that was another part, Jarrett, that we were looking into. With that original 11, you got to see Derek Williams on the left as your center back, and then you got to see Stian Gregerson. Your back four initially was Ronald Hernandez playing on the left, Williams, Gregerson, and Aiden McFadden. I mean, obviously, once again, first preseason game, but an interesting look, and it gave you a chance to see four guys doing different things.
It's a unique matchup. I think it's also good for Ronald Hernandez to be back on the horse out there, kind of because there were moments last year where it wasn't good, and getting back out there on the horse, partner up with Aiden on the other side, who has never met a sky ball he didn't want to win in the air.
Yep.
Also, now Maddie has learned this. Aiden's a very intense human being.
Yes.
Like Aiden has one mode, and he would not have been out of place in antiquity, like fighting battles. Aiden operates on a very intense frequency. But yeah, it's good to see some of these guys on mix and matches, because you're gonna get those mix and matches during the season because of injury, because of compression, because sometimes you're just gonna mix things up. Good to see what they can give you. Williams hit one just insane ball to Saba, where Saba pulls it wide.
Yeah.
He had one where like it wasn't a blind punt, but it kind of looked like an Aussie rules turn and punt. Obviously, he didn't drop kick it, but like he just turned, saw Saba make it a run, and just boom, right like down the throat, and Saba gets on the end of it and pulls it just to the wrong side of the post. This was the best game to try things out. Absolutely, Dylan. That's a great thing about preseason, and it's a weird balance too, man. Because this is the thing where I'm always like, hey, I need you to play within the system, but also this is preseason, so if you're gonna try something, now's the time to do it. Now pick your spots. Don't be reckless, and don't make this whole thing into a farce. But yeah, this is the time to try that. And like and Williams, being a veteran that he is, knows that. And so, yeah, he just turns around and, like, hits that ball to Saba. Yeah. Also, a gentle reminder that, and I feel like there's the stereotype of with when Saba came here, I'm like, oh, man, it was kind of like we're replacing Luis, who was incredibly quick, but had the touch of, like, a cinder block.
Yeah.
With Saba, who is technical, but Saba is actually really damn fast.
Yes.
Like Saturday was a good reminder for, if you forgot, Saba's really fast. Like, really fast.
Yes.
And he pulls that shot just wide. But yeah, those are those moments where you want to try something. I thought you had Armas trying stuff.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Armas. Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. That right there is what you needed, and it's what Armas needed, because you have to play within yourself, take a couple chances, like try some stuff, don't be afraid, and show why you need more minutes. Force your way into that situation.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think you'll be fine long term. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I just think it's going to be fun to see Armas develop his game and fit it into the Atlanta United system, spend all the time with the crews that he's going to be spending to develop out of the blocks. Remember, the first 11 was Guzan, Hernandez, Williams, Gregerson, McFadden, Muyumba, Armas in the middle, Firmino, Luke Brennan on the right, Yakamakis, and Shande Silva. That was your first group that was out there for.
Also, gentle reminder that Edwin Mosquera was not here, and Edwin Mosquera was like the king of, I'm going to try something.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to knock it on and just outrun you.
Right. Yeah, remember, we don't have Mosquera. Right. Yeah, we don't have Mosquera for 4 to 6 weeks. We don't have Caleb for another 1 to 3. So 3 to 5 for Mosquera and another 1 to 3 for Caleb with the shoulder injury. So keep an eye on both of those guys. Second group, Josh Cohen, Daniel Russo, from the Cobra Kai, or from Miyagi-Do soccer. Louisa Brahm, Noah Cobb, Brooks Lennon, Jay Fortune, Dax McCarty, Tyler Wolf, Derek Etienne, who looked like he was spending time at the 10, Saba, and Jamal Tiare.
Yeah, Jamal's going to be an interesting case study this year, I think, especially now that Jackson is in Charleston.
Yep.
See what we can get out of Jamal Tiare. You want to now that he's here, now that he's good to go. I mean, it was kind of a weird thing with his visa last year.
Yes. Yeah, it was.
Everybody knows visas can be weird.
Yes.
Depending on where you're coming from, they can be tricky.
Yes.
Yeah, let's see what he can give you in those moments. You know, I think you're gonna also factor in as far as the second team goes. Like, you have to factor in Kareem Tamimi being part of that project.
Yeah,
and Kareem Tamimi trying to force his way in. You know, if he can start this season hot, trying to force his way and say, "Hey, you want to? If you need another striker 1 week, like with international duty, maybe you give me a call. Maybe you give me a short-term call-up." That's gonna be an interesting one. To Dell's point, Machoke Chol, I think, is still a free agent. I think he'd be a really good signing for a USL team. The problem with Machoke is staying healthy.
Yes.
When he's on the field, he's such an enigma of a player because of the way he's built, but also his skill set. I know we've talked about this ad nauseum, but Machoke is a very big player. Physically, he is lanky as all get out, and he is incredibly long-limbed. But he's also really, really technical and quick. The problem for him is staying healthy.
Yes.
He is. That's because when he was on the field last year for the first team in a number of different roles, especially the weird ones where like you'd play him as like a 10. It's really weird, but it worked. It's almost like nobody knows what to do with him.
Correct.
It's like they don't know how to defend him, kind of thing. But I think he would be a really interesting fit for a USL team. But like I said, the thing is health. And also the fact that, like, I don't think you'll find anyone in that locker room who did not adore him.
Yep.
He's just a good dude, and he's a great personality to have around. Emilio, Derek Etienne Jr., who didn't cover himself in glory. Again.
No.
But Derek's also in that category in terms of, like, you don't mind having Derek around, even if he's struggling, because his personality is very infectious and very positive. Even last year when he was struggling, he still works very hard, and he brings a lot of positivity to that clubhouse and a lot of positive energy. And you do need that, even if it's not working on the field at the moment. And yeah, it hasn't been working on the field for Derek. When you talk to him, he's really easy to root for. And it honestly makes it suck even more when he struggles, because when you talk to him, you're like, oh, this guy's fun to talk to. But you need him to flip the switch.
Emilio says, obviously no one got hurt. Looked better than that disaster at Chattanooga last year, and Pineda didn't pull anybody off. Pull anybody by their ear and scold them. Hutch says extrapolation down here is in session. You are absolutely correct. We are extrapolating on a bunch of different fronts. Emilio on Cohen. Cohen looks like playing with his feet isn't a strength, but I'm in the minority. It's about stopping shots. And also with the preseason being what it is, it's about learning how to, if it's not your strong suit, how to play enough with your feet. Because you did notice that Birmingham wanted to pressure both Quentin Westberg and Cohen,
which is great.
Yeah, to try to force them into
that.
Yeah,
you try and create that as much as you can. I think you want to create that as much as you can, even if it's going up to the staff of Birmingham saying, "Hey, pressure us."
Yeah,
us
literally, you go. If you're Pineda or anybody, you sit there and go to Tom Sohn and you go, I know you're going to look miserable in the rain, wearing a very, very thin raincoat, but pressure us. Pressure my keeper just so I can see how they react. And, I mean, you'll probably see the same thing on Saturday up in Athens with Memphis 901. And
You know Memphis will press. They did it last year to you in US Open Cup. They pressured you and they put you on the back foot for the last 30 minutes of that game. But yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
you know you'll get pressure from them. But yeah, I think it actually kind of worked out pretty well Saturday in the sense that like you had pressure from Birmingham on you. They stepped up and you had to play through it.
Yeah.
But also Birmingham fell behind, which is okay for Birmingham, in my opinion, because of what I saw with them last year and talked to Keeler about it. Keeler Hodges at the USL show.
Excellent. Nicely.
As a very Birmingham person. Again, reach out to him if you have questions about Birmingham, or reach out to him if you want to hear mean things said about
Memphis,
Memphis or Tampa. Honestly,
yes,
he will put a kidney shot in there on Tampa real quick.
Yes,
but they were a team last year that they sit a bit more. And some of that has to do with like having playmakers like Enzo, who's a little bit older now. It's a little long in the tooth.
He's 74 years old.
Dude, it feels like it. Enzo's been playing USL for 30 years. He can't convince me otherwise. We had Keeler and John on once a month last year.
Yeah, traditionally, and we talked to Keeler about it at the end of the show at Ghost Train. After we were off the air, we're going to do a season preview the week leading into opening weekend, and then that's what's going to start with Keeler and our friends from the USL show. So they're going to be on the week before leading into Premier Week, and then that'll start their run with us, and they'll be on for the last week. They'll be on in the last week of each month to kind of recap things from a USL perspective. But yeah, the week leading into opening weekend, that's when our guest spots with Keeler and John Morrissey and everybody from the USL show will start.
Yeah, Enzo, I don't know if Enzo is either or not. I don't know if Enzo is a nice guy or not.
Well,
I know that Enzo is one of my favorite players in USL history because he is a heel.
Yes.
In just the best way. That man was arguing with the official 10 minutes into the game.
He was dialed up already. Dale, in the Jay Heaps video and the Jay Heaps interview that we did at Ghost Train, Jay actually does get into Enzo, and Enzo literally, and he goes into this in the interview. So I would suggest, what I may do is I may take the Jay Heaps interview and just chop it and post it to the network. But in our interview with Jay mentions the initial conversations about bringing Enzo in, and everybody was like, "Oh man, I don't know about this. Do we bring in a guy like Enzo with his on-field reputation?" And it turns out that that's just who he is on the field. He flips a switch. When he's on the field, he flips a switch. When he's off the field, he's as good a dude as you could possibly have. And so now that I've talked myself into it, I may clip the Jay Heaps interview and post it to the network and just let everybody hear what Jay had to say about what's going on.
Yeah, and but you forcing Birmingham to have to play from behind, I think also benefits Birmingham. So I think there were multiple benefits for both sides in that game Saturday. As a couple of people have said, like, yeah, nobody got seriously injured, which is the best thing you could hope for. Everybody got a run out. Nobody got seriously injured. You do it again in a week's time. In Athens, when you bring Memphis here, which again, Memphis is the land of former Atlanta United people.
Oh, absolutely.
And they've also tried to reload that roster after getting knocked out in the playoffs and shootout. And they're going, you know what you're going to get with that team. They are going to press you. They are going to try and make you uncomfortable, and they are going to try and counter press you and pin you down, and force you to play through them, and then turn you over, and then go. And then at times they're going to be, if they have the ball, they will recycle possession. They will hold the ball as much as they can. I'm looking forward to that game for that reason.
Yep.
And that it's a different challenge. And we'll cross that bridge this week when we talk about it in the lead up to Memphis.
Yeah. Okay. So keeping up with the conversation, David, reaction. Westberg was on one. Dax thought he still played for a gold team at one point. Generally looked sharp for most guys. Looked great for missing key parts too. And so Nix was asking who was away. So you had Almada and Wiley away for national team duty. Mosqueda injured. Sleesh is waiting for a visa. I think that's the Fab Four that was missing. It was Mosqueda and Wiley because of injury, and Tiago away on national team duty, and Sleesh waiting for a visa. So that's where we are with a couple weeks to go in the the exhibition in the preseason. Emilio Firmino could be good, but they weren't playing Columbus or Red Bulls. True. Off the top of your head, Jarrett, when Atlanta United 2 played Red Bulls 2 or Crew 2, do you remember how? I mean, Atlanta United 2 responded well to Crew 2. It's just that Crew 2 decided, as a part of their makeup, they wanted to have experienced guys. It wasn't all folks coming through the Crew Academy. You had guys like Marco Micheletto and Coleman Gannon who were a part of Crew 2's build. Red Bulls specifically, with Red Bulls 2, it's academy folks, and it is the Red Bulls folks who know the Red Bull system. I know that Atlanta United 2 did fairly well and was really competitive against Crew 2, had issues at Montclair because of both injury and call-ups because of schedule compression. But when Red Bulls were down here in Kennesaw, I think Atlanta United 2 handled them pretty well, if memory serves.
Yeah, it was tricky. And it wasn't just, older players of Crew 2. Crew 2 just has a really good system in place right now. They're in a very good generation. The whole Crew organization is, to be honest. Because they came down here and they pushed you around at times. When you had to play Crew 2 here, they I don't want to chalk it up and say that they're not like really, really good, because obviously they're very, very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
But they were especially on one that day. That was one of those where you were, if that's your team, you're very happy. You're like, oh, everybody's locked in today. Everybody's on one today. No one's having an off day. It was one of those situations. You do want this pressure, though. You do want teams to come in and fight you and push and try and push you around, especially the kids. We'll see how they break up the segments for the game against Memphis this upcoming weekend.
Yep.
But I would love to see, depending on how much guys are able to give you in terms of time on the field, I'd love to see them push. I'd love to see some of the kids get out there and get pushed around. See how they react to getting pushed around.
Yep. And so that'll be a part of the look up in Athens. Once again, still waiting to figure out what plans, if any, we're going to be having. So keep an ear out for all that stuff that is TBD. I'm mentioning Morton Anderson. Yes. For Dell, Jackson Conway, Jake LaCava up front is what he's thinking for Charleston, and Markanich just behind. So it'll be really interesting once again to see Ben Pierman with Jacko there, Jake LaCava in there, how their preseason. And I think as a rule, USL Championship teams have only been in camp for about a week, and I'm being optimistic with that. So how long will it take Conway, LaCava, Markanich to get the full song and be there and do what Ben Pierman wants? That's the biggest question that I have with all of this. Bart Keeler joining us about 5 minutes or so, and we'll go over reffing down here and anything else that's on Bart's mind when it comes to Camp Cupcake, any leftovers, that kind of a thing. And we'll get anything else that's on Bart's mind. Yeah, we're going to get into Wolves and West Brom with stupidity down here, and that's probably going to be in Prem and proper. Fans were just taking swings at each other, and then you're doing it in the family section. And I'm sorry. I'm going to get fired up about it again. But the biggest thing is just like, look, find them, kick them out of the building, charge them. And I mean, really charge them. Don't do like a half of a charge, or, go all the way in on these idiots when they do these kinds of things. And we'll talk about Port Vale too with Bart. Port Vale and Portsmouth, we'll get into that just because of the extreme that happened with that and just the craziness that was like that. Shooter's back in. Welcome back, Shooter. Shooter says that Wolves fans are like Philly fans, not as fat, though. So we'll have that. Yeah, Del, I do have to remember the J Heaps Michael Parkhurst story for his next appearance, for Parky's next appearance. It definitely is definitely going to be a part of that particular conversation. Shooter went into championship games down here from yesterday and getting into so Shooter says J Heaps is okay. Good player, average coach with terrible ownership. Okay.
Hey, man, look, 2017 Revs fit that bill.
Yeah.
It also felt like when you get to by the time you get to the Rev wedding, that the Revs had basically given up on him.
Oh,
Like they were done. They were done.
Friedel was just a bad idea.
Well, yeah, that's half to the fact, but 2017 Revs just kind of quit on him.
Mm-hmm. Kefsey, I'd like to believe the first group showed best in training, and therefore the second squad needed time before any tasks. Their spots in the 11. Armas, good in training, for example, from Kefsey. And yes, Kefsey referring to the rain in Birmingham as the Tallapoosa teardrops. And Derek, it was brutal. The damn rain was, in fact, brutal. And Del, I think you're right. When I was mentioning the forecast, meaning they said that it was only going to be a 17% chance of rain. Dell says, I think it meant they're correct on the weather 17% of the time. Absolutely true. Kefsey says it was fine on a rain jacket and boots, just came across the field sideways and sheared us for a bit. Yeah, we were in 115 in the end zone, and it was interesting how they paired one of the supporters groups for Birmingham right next to the Atlanta United away fans. You had a section separating them, but it was they're right near each other. And Dell, yeah, this was the best game to try things out. Kefsey,
if it makes you feel better, this weekend's supposed to be cold but sunny.
There you go. Kefsey, anyone wise think 3 at the back might be a thing we did. Hernandez and Gregerson and JW with Shonday and AM wide wings. I mean, it might be at times, depending on what you're looking at from the personnel. I mean, you're going to do what you do. I mean, you're going to do your 4-3-3. Necessity might have some kind of a formation change depending on the situation, but you're going to do 4. But remember, what we always talk about here is that formations are only on a piece of paper. What you have individuals do once the whistles start does not adhere to a formational construct. And Jared, this has been something that we've been talking about for a while. You might see it on a piece of paper and poorly placed on a graphic, but just because it's a 4-3-3 on paper or on a graphic does not mean it is a 4-3-3 when you actually kick the ball off.
No, and everything changes. You want an example of that? Go watch Miami play and what Miami's going to be doing. Because we had these questions early in the season of how do you get Julian Gressel on the field, but also provide cover for him. And so, in attack, defense, things look different. Things shift. You heard Aiden McFadden talk about the change in the way to play right back because of the way Brooks Lennon did it last year at times when Atlanta tucks Brooks Lennon into the midfield and that right back in possession, slides into the midfield.
Yeah.
And slides more towards the middle. Yeah, the guy, there's different ideas of how to deploy offensively versus defensively. So yeah, it's not like putting Skittles on a plate in a 4-4-2 or 4-3-3 and expecting them to stay there. That's okay because you have to find different ways to unlock other teams and to try and pull guys out of position for others. You move guys around like a chessboard to create space for others. So. Yeah, it'll change. I'm sure there will be more wrinkles throughout the year, and we'll have those wrinkles honestly, Crew's a good team to watch for that. Now that I'm thinking and talking about it, Columbus Crew like to do weird things, and they like to make these sweeping changes.
Yeah,
not a bad way at all. But you can go game to game and be like, the hell are they doing?
Yeah.
That's different. They'll put some stuff on tape that you're like, don't think I've seen them do that before. And then you see them and it's something different. And they will make these these big tactical changes, and generally they're very good. But yeah, so it's hard to like just pin it down. Like I said, it's not like putting Skittles down in a 4-3-3 or 4-4-2.
Right. It is 10 o'clock on a Monday, which means that we have commandeered this gentleman. And let's see. So now that I gotta see what. First off, Bart, what's the mug?
Hairspray. Good morning, Baltimore. I
Okay.
felt like that would be appropriate given last night. A little bit of a troll.
Good morning, Baltimore. But not a whole lot of folks had big hair, so that was the only problem with that morning show. All right, so let me start you off. And traditionally, what we do with Bart is talk national team and talk about reffing down here. Reffing down here is very special because there is some true stupidity that we do have to talk about. True stupidity. And that is a mind in and of itself, completely and totally. But when it comes to Camp Cupcake and the most recent episode of Soccer for US POD that is out, was there anything left on the table? Is there anything left in your brain? What else is sticking with what's going on at Camp Cupcake and what did and did not happen? Who was there? Who wasn't there? All of the madness that ensued in the 1-0 loss in San Antonio.
Yeah, I think a week later, I'll say that I think we're rightfully outraged at the poor use of time and literally time on the field for some players, as well as the point and the goals of the camp. I do feel like we were not truthfully informed of what the goals for this camp were. But none of these players who were here are going to have real impact on the U.S. men's national team this year for sure. And probably not for years to come. I mean, I think there are some players there like Tolkien and Wiley who have great futures with the national team, but they're not close to being part of the senior men's national team. Certainly not till 2025 or beyond. There are guys like Miles Robinson and DeJuan Jones who will probably feature this year, but Miles has got to figure himself out. And now that he's not in Atlanta, I can talk trash about him because he's not ours anymore. But Homeboy needs to figure his head out because he has been a little lackluster over the past 12 months. I understand fully he is operating on a reconstructed ACL, or excuse me, Achilles.
Yeah.
But, I think what we saw also in this game was the biggest criticism I think we've all had of Miles while he was in Atlanta is, where's your leadership, bruh? Because you were the captain, you were the leader of this back line, and y'all gave up a lot of chances to a team that wasn't very good and didn't attack very often. And so, if you're Miles Robinson at 26 years old, who decided to stay another year in MLS, take less money, go to a club that, they had a good season. Let's not pretend like FC Cincinnati is somehow the class of MLS because they had one good season out of however many others they've had where they've been absolute dog trash. But you have Miles now has the responsibility to himself to figure out how he's going to be better because he has to level up because you have guys in Europe who are doing that. Austin Trusty is starting for Sheffield United.
Mm-hmm.
Miles Robinson is not doing that, so I don't like to just compare guys based on the leagues they play in. But the reality is Miles Robinson is not facing the level of competition week in and week out that, Trusty's facing at Sheffield. And when you add Chris Richards into that in the Premier League, you still have Tim Ream floating around. You have Cameron Carter-Vickers, who's, playing at Celtic and at least, for like 6 games out of the season playing competitive matches against world-class players. Miles has got to figure out how he himself levels up because right now it's fair to criticize him and go, I don't know if you really belong on this depth chart here, bud.
Jared.
And again, he's not in Atlanta anymore, so I can say that.
Oh, I know. Absolutely. I see how this window opens up. Jared, go for it.
No, and to his point, I mean, I wonder with Miles if it's one of those things where Not everyone leads from the front, and that just might be his personality at this point, and that's fine as long as everyone's going into this knowing exactly, who he is and what to expect. We'll see how Miles does another year removed from that blown Achilles. In the same sense, we'll see what Brad Guzan looks like another year removed from it. Brad Guzan, though, has kids, and like chasing kids around, I feel like is a different form of physical rehab.
Yes.
Kids will make you.
I think Miles is chasing something, but it's not kids. So.
Wow.
Chasing children around is like a 3-cone drill, but it never ends.
Yeah, exactly.
Bart,
especially because aren't they in they're no longer man to man, right? They're in that zone defense. He's got 3 kids, right?
Yeah, you're outnumbered, man.
You got to be careful. Those odd man rushes in the Guzan house.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is why you stick to 1. That way you can bracket coverage.
Yeah.
Or you can play man and have a safety over top.
There you go.
This is why you stick to 1. So you don't get outnumbered. So then you're in some zone blocking scheme, and all of a sudden, Devontae Freeman doesn't know how to block an outside rusher.
Strange how that plays.
Why are we doing this today? Why are we doing this today?
Because Bart, I had to listen and see a bunch of people on the Dead Bird app try and create a discourse comparing last night's Lions game to anything the Falcons have ever done, and pretending that it was equal to the Super Bowl when it wasn't even in the same stratosphere. Once again, every other collapse in NFL history is on one pedestal, and somewhere on top of Mount Olympus, far beyond the reach of many mortal man, is that Super Bowl. Stop trying to make fetch a thing just so you can drive some content. Please stop. Let the Lions die in peace.
That ain't gonna happen.
I know. Yeah. Oh my God. So Bart, any other non-Miles takeaways from this weekend for you from the game Saturday
in Birmingham? No one got hurt.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. If you're looking at Atlanta United, you got to play a lot of young kids, right? That's awesome. Because Birmingham is not obviously a step down from Atlanta United, duh. But when you're talking about the young kids who played, that's the level they, in theory, should be competing at, and the fact that they were relatively good, that's a positive, but yeah, the biggest thing, no one got hurt. Who gives it's preseason.
Yeah.
Any goods or bads are the only good for me is no one got hurt and you got to play young kids. Congrats.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If this camp that we've been talking about that finished with a 1-0 loss in San Antonio was supposed to be a camp, according to Brooks Lennon interview outbound as camp was going on, and he found out why he wasn't a part of it, that you were preparing for the Olympics. How many folks in that grouping, in Camp Cupcake, legitimately got themselves to be a part of the Olympics discussion with what was going on there that finished in San Antonio, and who was left out of this discussion that should have been in it, that you could have pulled in? Obviously, league play and things like that overseas would have been
Well, the first thing we have to remember is that this is not a FIFA window. So players and clubs do not have to agree to go to this camp. So I think when you're talking about who wasn't there, that is a whole big ball of wax that I don't want to deal with, because I don't know why people weren't there.
Yeah.
I think some people always want to blame Greg. And at the end of the day, sometimes it's just players didn't want to go or clubs didn't want to release them.
Yeah.
But that's not, I think that, again, the biggest issue that I've had with looking back at Camp Cupcake was Brian White is not Olympic eligible, yet we started and played him 60 minutes when Duncan McGuire, who, by the way, is getting looks from English championship teams, which is something Brian White has never had in his life. You only got 28 minutes of Duncan McGuire on the field, and he is a guy who legitimately has a chance to lead your line in Paris this summer. Yeah. And I think that is absolutely stupid, foolish, irresponsible, and just quite downright dumb from Greg, who I'm sorry, I can't. This is the one player I just cannot get over is Brian frickin' White starting for this U.S. men's national team. And I get it, it's a meaningless friendly. To me, that's even more of a reason to not play him. He's a meaningless player. He has zero future on this team. You have a player in Duncan McGuire who probably, sure, didn't run the little cone drills as well as Greg Berhalter likes them to do, because that's what Greg cares about more than actually what you can frickin' do on the dang soccer field. He cares how you shuffle back and forth and listen to instructions. And Brian White proved that he could do absolutely nothing when it came to actually being on the field. Yet you had Duncan McGuire, who has had just as good of a season as Brian White, by the way. And I say that because, sure, he didn't have as many goals, but you know what? He didn't play as much. He didn't play as many minutes. He didn't play as many games. He also had more assists. So I get that. Duncan McGuire, to me, is the one who, in all of this, his stock has just risen a lot. Obviously, a first-year pro. I get it. But he was starting in those October friendlies for the Olympic team when they were playing out in Phoenix. And it's just really, really stupid that we wasted 60 minutes on Brian White. But then there are other guys like McGlynn proved that he is absolutely a star when he gets a little bit of time and space. I thought Tolkien and Wiley both played really good on the left side. Tolkien played a little bit better than Wiley, but Wiley was also playing in that left wing position where I think we all understand he's a left back, not a left winger. Mm-hmm. And I think those two guys especially showed that they will be able to cut it at the Olympics. And then obviously Esmir Bajraktarevic was the one who I think wowed all of us.
There you go. You got Bajraktarevic. You got that.
But he's the one, especially if you're looking at the Olympics, he doesn't play a big role for New England. And I'm not saying he should. He's 18. We don't know what the kid truly is yet. If you're looking at Olympic rosters going, okay, who's going to make it, who won't? If you can steal a kid like Bajraktarevic from his MLS club team, who's not as, fully ingrained in that club and the team right now, that's good because he clearly showed some bright positivity. He was fun to watch. He did cool things, and that's all you can ask for in a January friendly.
Bajraktarevic will be spending a lot of time with Revs too, and will be keeping an eye on Richie Williams and New England Revolution 2 this season in MLS.
Yeah.
All right, so Jarrett, Nick, let me get into reffing down here since we're at the halfway point. Drew and Maddie joining us at the bottom of the hour for Prem and Proper the Review, which is more like FA Cup down here. But Bart, let me ask you something. Have you ever, or have any of your friends ever been chased in anger on a pitch? Have you even heard of stories like this where anyone on levels that you and your friends and your contacts have been in, have you ever been in a situation where someone has charged the pitch?
Thankfully not on the pitch itself. Now, obviously there have been off the pitch scenarios where coaches, parents have approached referees in not friendly manners. And
not friendly, he says.
It's actually a little less scary because you're usually surrounded by a lot more people. Yeah. Usually at that point, you're surrounded by your referee crew. And it's very apparent what the coach and or parent is doing. But this is something that legitimately is a fear for a lot of referees. This and also getting met in the parking lot are the two that kind of do come up in, when we're talking about what's the worst case scenario, this is it, because you don't know what's going on, and clearly, as you saw by the video, no one really saw what was happening until, the guy was pretty close to the referee until attention was alerted.
Mm-hmm.
This happened on a professional match too. This is insane to me, John, how this was. He was allowed to get from one side of the field to the other without being confronted by anyone.
Does this ever come up in conversations with you and your fellow officials about these kinds of things, or is it moments like this with Port Vale and Portsmouth, where a 62-year-old dude just charges onto the pitch and literally is chasing after center ref, and center ref makes his way down the tunnel. And by the time guy gets to the far touchline, he's finally, commandeered by 3 guys and taken away. I mean, is this ever something that comes up, or is it moments like this that bring up this kind of a conversation?
When they come up, it's usually just us kind of regaling old stories of, wars and battles previous fought. But this particular thing is not something that is common and has not really come up. Being chased on the field by a parent or a spectator or whatever is not something that is common. It should not be common because it shouldn't happen ever. And I hope this person is put in jail. Send him to Azkaban for all I care. Like, he doesn't deserve to be out in public.
Jarrett, when we have this kind of craziness that's attached, literally, there's always that vision in our heads of the angry parent, in a situation closer to what Bart does on a weekend. But then you end up with what we saw with Port Vale and Portsmouth, where dude literally comes on the field and he's got free reign. None of the players are getting anywhere near him. Guys just got this open pathway, and the referee, Craig Hicks, finally heads down the tunnel before the guy's cordoned off. It's garbage in the highest degree, but it does make you wonder where the hell the security forces were, why no one jumped on the guy to begin with, and what took him so damn long.
I feel like we have this conversation like every time. It's never the first conversation, but I feel like it always happens at some point in the discourse every time this happens.
Yeah.
Is we end up with a conversation about, oh, we can't believe this happened. Here's the statement from the club. Here's different angles of it. Thank goodness no one got seriously hurt. Hopefully no one got seriously hurt. And then we kind of all take a second. You get that momentary awkward silence in a large group of people talking, and someone goes, hey, what?
Mm-hmm.
Where was security?
Yeah.
Like, where were the people who are lining the field in jackets who have basically been given permission to like spear everyone?
Uh-huh.
Where y'all at?
Yeah.
Because I think we've seen like players get involved in these things, and once again, never fight a professional athlete. I'm actively begging all of you to never fight a professional athlete, because they're just built different than you are.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. It doesn't make you any less of a person. Pro athletes are just built different. You don't want to fight them. You will lose that fight every time. 9 times out of 10, you will be like wondering where you are afterward. Don't fight a professional athlete. Don't give them an excuse. Especially don't give like professional soccer players an excuse to kick you. But yeah, where was security in all this?
Yeah. Which lends itself, Bart, to my next question. When it comes to, and what happened was this.
Oh no, I've never fought anyone but I've never fought any professional athletes. I've stood next to way too many of them.
I've been close to too many professional athletes to think that I could take them.
Yeah, and like Bart was at West Virginia. He's seen some of those boys on West Virginia football.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I tutored West Virginia football and basketball players for 3 years in Morgantown. I understand how large these humans are, and also how much they eat, by the way.
Yes, and how
I don't want any of that smoke.
No, and how fans in general set fire to sofas and they don't care.
The one. Hey, look, man, one of my favorite things ever was 2011 when LSU had to go to Morgantown to play, and it was just like a meeting of cultures.
It was that was actually how we didn't get re-invited to the SEC after that game. I don't know, but that's
it should have been. So
hey, y'all have Missouri, so you're welcome.
No one wanted Missouri.
Bastion of football culture, Columbia, Missouri.
Yes, Columbia, Missouri.
It would have been
RJ
funnier
too.
It would have been funnier. See, that's shots fired, and I appreciate it. Next, that's right up there with like saying, "Why would you want Syracuse when we also have broadcast professionals?"
Yeah, exactly.
But it would be much funnier if you invited West Virginia to the SEC and didn't take West Virginia Tech.
Oh, man.
But yeah, my thing for don't fight athletes. the one example of this being like, I had to interview Jack Crawford when he played for the Falcons. Jack Crawford's every bit of like 6'5", 280, and he looks like Thanos. Like it's just it looks like an X-Man.
Who's to say he's not?
Super nice guy, but he looks like an X-Man.
Yeah.
They're just pro athletes. They spend all their time eating and lifting heavy objects and running really fast.
Yeah.
Don't fight them.
No. This lends itself to a strategic question, Bart. What triggered the event itself was a late penalty call in a tight game, which led to a converted PK and a win for the other team. So when it comes to calling something that important late for you, when it comes to do you let things go in game state, or if it legitimately is like a penalty and it's late, it's like, damn the torpedoes, I have to call this. Do you let stuff go late depending on how the game is, or like seriously, it's like, yep, this is egregious, I've got to call it?
Yes and no. I think for me, it depends on it. It's not that I let stuff go because it's late in the game. It's because both teams, you have to understand what both teams want at that point in time. So there's so many times late in the game where two players are fighting for a ball and they're both committing fouls. I mean, they're kicking the crap out of each other. And sometimes you just go, well, do I put myself in this situation? No, probably not.
Right.
Because both teams are going at this at a similar level. But, obviously when it comes to legitimate fouls, no, we don't take that into consideration because, if it's a foul 45 yards out from goal, we need to have that same kind of mentality in and around the penalty area.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we have a little bit higher bar for what constitutes a direct free kick foul inside the penalty area. We all know that there's some level of raised standard for that, but at the end of the day, the time of the game doesn't really matter. Now, there have been plenty of times where I've called a penalty late in a game and felt bad about it because at the U12 level, when a girl puts her hands up like this to block a shot in the penalty area, I know she's not doing it to block the shot necessarily, but at the end of the day, this is not okay. This is fine. This putting your hands out in front of you is not.
Yeah.
There's also times where you call fouls because they're fouls and the coach is mad at the player, not you, and that's the other thing is any coach worth their salt. Yes, they're going to be a little bit upset at the referee because they're going to protect their players, but you also as a referee kind of understand when they're actually mad at you and when they're really just mad at their player for putting the referee in a situation to have to call that foul. And that's where I caution players all the time. Don't put the referee in a position where they have to make a decision because you can't do a stupid thing and then get mad at someone for telling you did a stupid thing. And I think this particular one was perfectly fine enough penalty. If I remember the actual replay, It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you called it.
All right, last topic for you this week, and this is where I want to include Jarrett in this before we go into Prem and Proper. A Belgian Pro League match between Anderlecht and Genk will be replayed in full due to a VAR error after the country's disciplinary council for professional football ruled in favor of a Genk appeal on the grounds of a misapplication of the laws of the game. The decision, believed to be the first of its kind in European football, could set a precedent after an initial ruling by the refereeing body that there would be no replay was challenged on appeal by Genk, whose request for another game was upheld by the senior group. Back in October, we talked about Luis Diaz, Spurs, Liverpool, all that kind of stuff. After the defeat at Anderlecht, Genk filed a complaint with the Belgian referee department that an incorrect VAR decision had been made after a penalty kick. Genk winger fires in a rebound past the Anderlecht keeper, Kasper Schmeichel, after a penalty miss. Goal was ruled out by a VAR check. Replays showed that the player who scored the goal was inside the penalty area. However, replays also showed encroachment with two Anderlecht players inside the penalty area as the spot kick was being taken. Penalty kick should have been retaken.
Yes.
So we now have a disciplinary council who sits there and got an appeal, and now they're going to play the game all the way from the absolute beginning all over again.
Yeah, I was a little shocked that they were going to play the full game again, but I also guess that that's the best situation. I think what bothers me about this is not that they admitted they were wrong and tried to correct it, because I think that's a plus, but if a referee would have just got this live action and correct, what would without the use of VAR, what would the like before in the before times, right? What would the outcome have been? And I don't think we would have had a match replay. We would have just had yeah, they messed up. Sorry. I do want to caution people who are Premier League fans. This will not transfer over to England because they don't admit they're wrong. No. So don't expect that to happen. But it is interesting how this will affect others. But I do think this is a very specific scenario where this was a misapplication of the laws. Because even the one that happened with Tottenham Liverpool, it wasn't necessarily a misapplication of the laws. It was just a misapplication of VAR. And that those are two different things,
Okay. What else is going on with you with Soccer for US POD? And what's the week looking like for you?
Well, we're taking a week off.
What?
But yeah, I know. But we'll probably have stuff regarding Women's Gold Cup coming soon. I don't know if you saw, but Friday, the preliminary rosters dropped for all the 15 teams competing.
All 9,000
is one of them.
Players, yeah.
Yeah. U.S. women was one of them. 52 players on that preliminary roster. Some interesting names, to be quite honest. Some interesting players who I don't necessarily think have shots at being on the roster, but these preliminary rosters are made for a reason.
Yes.
And that means everyone has a shot at the end. But that obviously means that we'll have, real rosters coming soon. Obviously, the tournament starts February 20th for the U.S., so expect a extended camp before that as well. So I wouldn't be shocked if we have a roster drop this week. That's not reporting. That's just, it kind of makes sense. I haven't heard or seen anything about that, but logic and timeliness combined to tell me we'll probably have a Women's Gold Cup roster coming this week or early next week.
And obviously, when that happens, we will knock on your door and you will break it all down. As always, my friend, great to catch up with you on Mondays at 10, since you are there in your home office and home studio where we get to catch up with everything going on, repping down here, national team stuff, and anything else on your mind.
Shout out to Emily Fox, by the way.
A
goal, or not a goal, an assist, and we'll give her an MLS assist in her.
Hockey assist. There you go.
Yeah, definitely a great match and player of the match for Arsenal on Sunday. That was awesome. Shout out to the folks at the Bra House for putting on a cool women's soccer Sunday. Watched West Ham and Arsenal, some U.S. women playing in England. It's really cool to see.
And the Ciote is chasing after Bart once again for the second week in a row.
No, they're going to the old folks apartment across the street from me. There's a 55 and up apartment building across the street from me. So yeah.
They're partying just a little too much on a Monday morning. That's why they're going over there.
Yeah.
All right. Be well, my friend. Enjoy your was this your first or second cup, by the way, for Good Morning Baltimore?
Second.
There you go. Okay.
Y'all enjoy.
All right. Be good. That's Bart. Bart's going to drink his coffee. Jarrett, last thoughts before you go.
Once again, don't overreact to everything this week and lead up to the Memphis game. It's not the end of the world.
Until it is. All right.
Also, as far as we're talking, because I sent it to Maddie.
Yeah.
If we're talking don't fight athletes, Kermit Washington remains on that Mount Rushmore.
Yes, that's true. Terry O'Reilly is on that list.
All you need to know about the Kermit Washington one is that Rudy Tomjanovich reported tasting spinal fluid in his mouth after the punch.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah. So, Kermit Washington, Rudy T., Terry O'Reilly, Mike Milbury, Bruins Rangers at Madison Square Garden, where I think O'Reilly took off a guy's shoe, a fan's shoe, and started to beat him with it.
It is a minor miracle that no one died in the Malice in the Palace.
Yes.
Like, as much as we joke about that, man, it's a minor miracle no one died.
Yep, no doubt.
Because Jermaine O'Neal went up in the stands.
Yes.
And like, if you've never seen a basketball player's hands,
yeah,
it's like getting hit with a cartoon mallet.
Yeah, they're not small.
No, also Nolan Ryan, which Robin Ventura,
and the Noogie Patrol on Robin Ventura.
Well, all you needed to know about that fight was that, like, when Robin Ventura charged him, Ryan doesn't even really square up. He just kind of drops his glove, like, okay, if you insist, and then grabs him like a small steer. And if Robin Ventura had horns, he would have just wrestled into the ground.
He calf roped Robin Ventura.
Just put him in a headlock and just started, like, pounding the back of his skull.
Yeah, absolutely. Danny Ainge fighting Tree Rollins is another example of that. That is absolutely true. You are absolutely correct, David.
Don't fight pro athletes.
Yeah, don't fight pro athletes. That's the T-shirt for today, by the way. Don't fight pro athletes. Jared
Dano Chara.
Yeah. You don't.
Although he's not as much of a fighter.
No,
I mean,
Big C 6'9" before skates.
I mean, I'd rather fight him than Ty Domi.
Yeah, I mean, Z's not a fighter. Doesn't mean he's not a lover, but he's not a fighter. So yeah, you don't go after Big Z. I saw Big Z at an All-Star game weekend once, and literally he was in sandals, Bahama shirt, khaki shorts, and at 6'9", he was still 6'9" in flats. I mean, there is no mistaking 6'9" with Big Z, and then you add skates to Big Z.
Well, you put him on skates, he's close to 7 feet.
He's a 7-footer.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it was. So you back with us tomorrow?
That's the plan.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow. And there goes Jarrett. So it is now time for Prem and Proper, the review, which is when now we bring in Maddie and Drew. Drew has found space where he can actually, not be bothered. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you, brother. It feels great. Excited to be here.
Okay. We have to discuss a couple things. There are a couple of Manchester United things we do have to discuss because this is FA Cup down here. Let's see. So do you want to talk about the game or do you want to talk about who was not in the game first?
Let's talk about who is not in the game first.
Okay, Marcus Rashford, go.
Just before we get started on this, there's a huge conflict of interest with me here.
Of course there is.
I'm not at home, but my walls and mostly everything in my room is dedicated to number 10, Marcus Rashford.
Ooh.
But enough is enough. We saw the treatment that Jadon Sancho got, and I'm not talking about being frozen out and transferring to Dortmund. I'm talking about Ten Hag saw something in him to where I see some potential. You're not mature enough, so I'm going to give you 3 months off to go get better. Well, that didn't work. With all of that, going on.
Wow.
That was me. I apologize. Continue.
John Madison, I don't know if you guys recall last year when Ten Hag came into control at United, Marcus did the same thing. He showed up late to training. Boom, he didn't start the next game. This is the second time that we know about something like this happening. And to me, it baffles me because you have to be at training the next morning, but you're in another country the night before partying. You are a worldwide figure, whether you think you are or you aren't. Anywhere you go, someone is going to notice who you are, especially in those countries, especially in Europe. And John Madison, we've played hooky before many, many times. Marcus, we know what you did. We know that you were too hungover to show up to training. And I think, John, this could spell the beginning of the end of Marcus Rashford's tenure at Manchester United. I mean, he's completely out of favor with the fans. We were under the impression that 30 goals last season was going to be the rejuvenation of a career that has been, arguably the most off-and-on career in Europe in the last 6 to 7 years. And then you see this season, it's almost as if he just doesn't care. We see it happen in sports all the time. These young kids get the bag that they like to say, and nothing else matters anymore. And it's, Rashford scored 30 goals last season. He got paid, and here we are. You know what? Pardon my language, but screwing off and not really, putting the pen to paper, so to speak.
Okay, so then I guess this. So Marcus Rashford qualifies for stupidity down here as a part of that particular segment. But Maddie, Manchester United, they were up 2-0 to the Exiles of Newport County in Wales. Then they weren't. It was 2-2, but then they finally got it done, 4-2 final. When you look at the other results from FA Cup on the weekend, what sticks out?
Oh, listen, I'm not trying to get on my little soapbox about Newcastle, but really good game. Anyway, no. I mean, I'm just, listen, I have to say it, it's my team. But there was a lot of really good games. I really was impressed by what I saw. I mean, Luton Town Everton was a fun one. That one was a fun one to watch. I really did enjoy watching Man United and Newport County. I really did. That game was a lot of fun. And I was nervous. We were coming into Prem and Proper, and I was like, we were watching the game, and I was like, oh no. I was like, if they lose, this is gonna be a crazy segment. I was like, things are gonna go off the rails. So I was happy they pulled through, because gives us something to talk about. But I was nervous just because, you just had that time. Literally, I agree. And I mean, back to the Marcus Rashford thing. That whole situation is just crazy to me. I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. It's just mind-boggling.
So then let me ask you this, Drew. How much of this is an indictment on Erik ten Hag on the weekend with both the Marcus Rashford situation and having to grind out? You trotted out a first-team roster. You trotted out a first-team XI against Newport County. You were up 2-0. Everybody's sitting there thinking, okay, everything's normal. And then it's 2-2. And I imagine that Manchester United was wearing their road white shorts. I imagine so. I don't want to know what they were looking like when it was 2-2. And you had, 35 minutes to go, and you were in a street fight. How much of this is on Ten Hag on the weekend?
I think about 90% of it is. I said on the 3D on Friday that I expected a certain starting lineup. Obviously we didn't know what was going to happen with Rashford, and I pretty much got the lineup, I hit the nail on the head, with the exception of Anthony coming in for Marcus. And only thing that I'll use to defend Ten Hag is the fact that one thing for Manchester United all season long, there hasn't been any sort of camaraderie being able to be built, because it's a different 11 almost every single 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. And with Casemiro coming back for his first game since November, this is Martinez's second game back, but first kind of full 90, trying to get back the partnership with Varane. This is Luke Shaw's first game back with that back three. So with Diogo Dalot, Rafael Varane, Bruno Fernandes, Kobe Mainoo, and Alejandro Garnacho, I mean, you can even throw the goalkeeper in. It's a whole different slew of players. But with that being said, this is Newport County. This is a team that that hasn't really beaten a top flight team unless it's in the FA Cup, arguably ever. And again, this is an indictment on Ten Hag. It's very strange for me how we're out of all competitions, European competitions that matter. No Europa League, no Champions League, no Carabao Cup. We're out. You have two tournaments to process, two tournaments to think of, or the Premier League to think about, and this tournament to think about, and you don't have the boys up and ready to go. To me, it seems like he's not taken serious. If a player who this team really relies on more than any fan wants to admit, when a player like Marcus Rashford takes it upon himself to say, screw it, I'm going to party. I know I got FA Cup this week, and I know I have training on Friday, but I'm going to party. It just, to me, John, it just says, I don't like to use this term because I'm never there and I've never seen it personally, but it's just safe to say that it's finally come to about that. I'm feeling that he's losing the locker room.
Yeah.
When partying is more important than, especially for a player. And again, I talked about it. two players that need a confidence boost for this club more than any players, Marcus Rashford and Rasmus Højlund. And for Rashford to not even take himself seriously, to me, it just shows that, you know, and I hate to say this because he's my favorite player and he has been for about 7 years now. It's time to go. You know, it's time to go. And we heard Barada. We heard him say on that little interview when he was for president of City, look, I'm giving my players 1 to 2 years. If you're not going to cut it, if you're not going to play for the badge, I don't care what city you're from. I don't care where you were born. If you're not cutting it, you got to go. Rashford has been one of these players that has gotten to do whatever he wants. Mourinho called him out. Remember the why always Lukaku? Why always Lukaku? Now you see why. Ole kind of let him do the freedom part. Then it became Friends FC. Then it was Ralph Ragnick. This is open heart surgery. If you want to fix this club, that's what it's going to take. And now you see Ten Hag. You got through him a little bit like Ole did. And then now it's become, all right, well, I'm going to do whatever it is I want. And I think, you know, acting like Lingard, you know, minus the social media aspect, but I just think with all the new stuff coming in, Ineos coming in, I think the house is about to be cleaned. And unfortunately, it may be time to cash in on Rashford before it's too late.
All right, Maddie, I want to start the Jurgen Klopp discussion in a second, but let me wrap up with Dell here in United. Dell says, I'd like to have a Man United past player be the manager so that we can keep our culture and not have players messing around. It means something to be a Manchester United player.
You know, I'm gonna, you know, what I just said. We just had not just a former player, but a club legend come in and manage the club, and it didn't turn into anything but Friends FC. I mean, you got people making $250,000 a week at the helm of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. One of those being Anthony Martial, who hasn't played a full season for United, you know, arguably ever, and just stuff like that that needs to. I don't necessarily think that, you know, the idea of having a former club player come in to be a manager is bad, but we've seen it happen. We've seen these United, I mean, Giggs, you know, I hate to say this, but he's a woman beater. He doesn't need to be anywhere around the club. Ole, again, Friends FC didn't happen. We've seen what Wayne Rooney is about. He doesn't need to be anywhere near managing a club. But if you want to talk about someone with success, look at Michael Carrick. You know, Michael Carrick, Middlesbrough is playing fantastic. But me personally, I'm not worried about, you know, the club culture and this and that. To me, the Fergie era, it's over with. It's done with. We have all of that stuff needs to be weaned out. A new era needs to come in, and we have to stop living off the class of 92, Sir Alex Ferguson. Remember, nothing is bigger than the club. Nothing is bigger than the badge. Let's figure out a way to start that and get that back on track. And I just think that a lot of this old culture, John Madison, it needs to be weaned out, because a lot of people are still living off the past.
And then you have the messages from Alex Ferguson talking to Chicharito about the new challenges that he's got there at Chivas, Guadalajara. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Man, you killed that accent, by the way.
I was going to say.
Yeah, I'm about 25 years behind you, but I tried to drop as much Scottish as I could. All right, Maddie,
that was awesome.
Jurgen Klopp has announced that he's done at the end of the season. And yep. I mean, obviously there were a lot of folks that were, I mean, he had told the front office this as far back as November and kept it. I mean, and I give Liverpool a lot of credit for that circle to stay as tight as it was, to keep that information locked in until Jurgen Klopp had the announcement that we discussed. Mm-hmm. Now that I've got the two of you here to break this down, Maddie, now that we've had the FA Cup weekend, he had his first match at Anfield. Everybody was singing "You'll Never Walk Alone." Obviously, he was overcome. Now that Jurgen Klopp is on the downward stroke of his time at Liverpool, what have you thought so far?
I mean, at least just like I credit to what you said too as well. I mean, the fact that Liverpool was able to keep this under wraps for as long as they did, that's crazy. Like, especially with nowadays, you're always hearing about like rumors that are going to spread and everything like that. Like normally not Twitter, X.
Well, yeah, whatever you want to call it. Well, you can be defiant and call it Twitter.
Social media.
Yes. So, I mean, like, just the fact that it wasn't anywhere. It literally was just dropped out of the blue, and everyone was like, what? Everyone was confused. But, I mean, I think I liked a couple of this, on social media, just seeing all of the fans holding up their scarves, singing "You'll Never Walk Alone." That was sweet, and I think like that's just it. As much as it breaks my heart because he is a legend, it honestly the way and why he's doing it really. And I talked about this when it first dropped. I mean, it really pegs the question about mental health, and not even mental health, but just the well-being of coaches and players in the Premier League, and how it's not really focused a lot. It's kind of I feel like there's a bit of a I don't want to like put words in anyone's mouth, but I feel like there's a disconnect, from obviously here in America, we have a bit more talk about that in all of our athletics, whether it be football, basketball, soccer. And then I feel like in Europe, it's kind of a don't ask, don't tell type thing. Like it really isn't talked about a lot. We've seen from other images, it's very much like, you're a soccer player, but you're not really a human being. But that's not true. And I think Jurgen Klopp is doing something for him, and I think that's really good. And as much as it's going to suck that he's not going to be at Liverpool anymore, I mean, I think it really pegs to question just all of that stuff going into it. But I think from seeing the scenes here, I think he's going to go out on a high. The fans love him. It's not like he's getting. At least from what I'm seeing, I don't think he's getting backlash. No, it's very very, very nice, very cordial, which is I think the first time I've ever seen anything like this. I mean, you always see people being like, "Oh, I'm glad he's gone. I'm glad he's going to leave." Like everybody is like, very whoa, geez.
Drew is sensing an opening here.
Oh no.
I sensed it and I'm going to take it. Barring any health issues, barring any mental health issues, or, like Madison said, any sort of non-mental health issues, good freaking riddance. I just like Pep Guardiola said, I'll be able to sleep better now the night before Liverpool games. But look, listen, you mentioned, backlash from the fans. Listen, this guy came in and completely turned that club right side up. There's nothing that he didn't win. I think there was 99, 97, 92, a 99-point season, a 97-point season, and a 92-point season. Only one Premier League title. Here's a fun stat. Ferguson has 13, never went above 91 points. So it just shows you he is a player's manager. Everybody loves him. Like I said, completely revitalized Liverpool. There's nothing that they haven't won since he came into play. It was a shock, but this is soccer, oriented podcast. But we saw Nick Saban in college football retire, a few weeks ago, and it was kind of, in the European soccer world, there really wasn't much of a difference in a shock value because didn't see it coming. He's not up there in age, and that's just what kind of makes me a little worried. I'm hoping there isn't any sort of underlying issues that he just isn't comfortable coming out with quite yet. Yeah. But again, as a United fan, that 7-0 loss last season, that was it for me. I'm okay with Klopp not at the helm at Anfield anymore. But one thing that I did see over the weekend, with the information coming, and of course, rumors are going to start coming out rampant. And one thing that does make sense is maybe Xabi Alonso comes back home to Anfield and takes over. I mean, there's not another hotter manager in world football right now. But to me, I say give him another 18 months, because you take him away from that and put him in a Frank Lampard situation and completely ruin his career when it's just now getting started. But we'll see. But to answer the question, it is going to be a little awkward and a little strange. You always want the best managers on the sideline. You always want that best feel, that war type feel. And United and Liverpool, they've gone to war, whether it's Mourinho and Klopp, Solskjaer, who, kind of had, was, when it came to big six teams, Ole was the man when it came to that. But it's going to be a little bit an easier night's sleep before the Liverpool matchups now that Klopp's going to be off the sideline.
All right. So I know you're up against the clock, my friend. We will catch up with you on Prem and Proper on Friday. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do, for the review.
Yep. Nice to see you guys. Have a good week, all right?
There we go. That's Drew. So Drew is there. Maddie, we will catch up with you at the tail end of the show for any final thoughts that you have on stuff. As always, thanks for coming on for the review.
Absolutely.
All right, we will see you in a sec. So there's Maddie and there's Drew, and that's Prem and Proper, the review, which is more like FA Cup down here. Tom, being one of our resident Evertonians, Everton has always been to bigger, more historic club in the city. Now maybe we can get back to being the better football team. Dell is wanting Gerard to but serious. But Dell wants Gerard to Liverpool, and I'm guessing Dell wants that to happen because of what's been going on with his time at Al-Ittihad, where I don't think he's won since the year 1974. So that's what. So all of this hatred toward Manchester United, not necessarily a surprise. So we got that. Stupidity down here to wrap up Prim and Proper. Steve Madley and Omar Garrick. 6 people have been arrested. A man taken to hospital as West Brom's FA Cup 4th round clash against Wolves was suspended for over 30 minutes following crowd trouble. Police forced to intervene as fights appeared to break out in the stands at the Hawthorns. A ball boy was also hit by an object. Players were removed from the field while police appeared to use batons to manage the crowd. Fans seen spilling onto the pitch, some bloodied. Statement from West Midlands Police. We know their history. West Midlands Police confirmed 5 were arrested for public order offenses, while a man was arrested before the game for possession of an offensive weapon. All weapons are offensive. What was it? What was the weapon? Man was also taken to hospital with head injuries. West Midlands Police said they had extra officers at this local derby, and they responded immediately as disorder in the stands caused fans to spill onto the pitch. Incident happened after Mateus Cunha put Wolves 2 goals up in the 77th. Match was suspended with just over 10 minutes of normal time to play. Play resumed after a 37-minute break. Wolves head coach Gary O'Neill and West Brom manager Carlos Corberán spoke in the tunnel, agreed the teams would come back out together for the restart as a show of unity. The FA has confirmed they'll be investigating the events that happened, labeling the incident as completely unacceptable. And FA came out with a sentence in addition to the statement. West Brom said they condemn in the strongest terms the unsavory scenes which disrupted the game, adding that they will work with police and the FA to fully investigate. They came out with a statement on their own. Season ticket holder in the Birmingham Road Inn told The Athletic a Wolves fan in the corner of the West Stand jumped up when the second goal went in. Quote, I looked over because there was a bit of a kerfuffle and he was making shush gestures to the Albion fans trying to goad them. Then all hell broke loose with loads of people running over there to get him, try to punch him, get to him. But by the time they did, a steward had already gotten to him. So the stewards were trying to protect and shield this guy. Once again, this is the quote from the fan that was there to The Athletic. But he still had a smile on his face and was still trying to goad them. Then they couldn't get him out of there because a big group of Albion fans had gathered at the bottom of the stand, and a lot had run over from the Birmingham Road Stand, so they were trapped for a while. Quite grim, to be honest. Quite a few disabled fans at the front of the stand who had to be taken out, and Kyle Bartley, one of the players, went in, got his kids out. Eric Peters was at the bottom as well, trying to calm people down. This is first off, it's unacceptable. It's disgusting. But sadly, we can't be surprised. It's all good. It's just absolutely disgusting that you had this happen, and you can't have. You continue to have moments like this happen. I know it's a derby. That is not an excuse. When you decide that you're going to, and literally this is in the family section from what we understand also. This was in the family section. Temporarily stopped. And when you have players going to pull their family out of the family section and onto the pitch away from the violence, the FA says it is they've launched a swift investigation. 2 people arrested, another prior to the match. And this was the first meeting between the clubs in the Black Country Derby since 2012. Had been designated high risk. Kickoff had been moved to 11:45. Flares were thrown toward the pitch by Wolves fans after Neto had scored in the 38th. Objects thrown toward Tommy Doyle as he prepared to take a corner in the second half. And you end up, obviously, with Wolves making it to round 5 in all of this. You had a rough attack late with Bartley and Cunha, and Thomas Bramall took the players off the field. You waited for a half hour. Gary O'Neill says incidents like this shouldn't happen. Yeah, Carlos Corberán said the players were worried. They should have been. Gary O'Neill says, yeah, stuff like this shouldn't happen. I know we talk about what do you do. Do you do it in an empty stadium? It might be to that point, especially for West Brom fans. Maybe in the West Midlands, you guys get to sit one out. You're going to use the CCTV footage. I know you are, and I probably just dated myself with that reference, but you're going to use all the security cameras. You're going to look at all the stuff. Find as many of them as humanly possible. Charge them to the fullest extent of the law. There better be at least 11 billion assault charges that are filed. I don't care what side it's on. You don't do this. I know. Oh, it's a part of our culture. Yeah, whatever. You don't do this. And when you look at doing this in the family section where players are having to rescue their families and bring them out onto the pitch, over the top and out of control yesterday with West Brom and with Wolves. By the way, later today, Blackburn and Wrexham is the final match in round 4 of FA. So, yeah, it's disgusting and it's stupid and it continues to happen, and then that's what you're staring at. And that's why I wanted to bring up Port Vale and Portsmouth to Bart and find out what it's like from his prism. And we could not let this stupidity down here go. Yeah, Derek, that's why we can't have nice things. Absolutely right. That's why we can't have nice things. But I think West Brom needs to sit the next one out. And honestly, if it gets to the point to where you are having clubs with empty stadia, I think that's your next step, because what is gonna get a club to get things squared away sooner? Getting hit in the pocketbook. Fans need to be up on charges. The West Midlands police need to be as vigilant as possible. And I'm talking 24-hour shifts. I don't care. Pay the overtime, find the fans, charge them, ban them. I don't care what side you're on. If you're a West Brom fan, banned from the West Midlands. If you're a Wolves fan, you're banned from Molyneux, and you're banned from any kind of activity as a fan. You don't get to go to any place anywhere. They put your picture on the outside of the inside of the stadium gates at every gate, every way around, just like the post office. I know we can't enforce it or enforce it well, or as well as could be enforced. But you got to take a stand. And the first time that you take a stand will be the first time you take a stand. Charge them to the fullest extent of the law. I don't care what side they're on. You're an idiot. Idiots deserve what happened. We talked a little bit about Xabi Alonso and Bayer Leverkusen now that Jurgen Klopp is out the door at the end of the season. We'll find out what happens with that. Remember, all of the discussion, why I did not bring up Mikel Arteta was brought up by Sport. We know that Sport likes to stir up the ish when it comes to Barcelona. That's just what they do. No real facts and evidence or anything like that. It was discussed as fake news by Mikel Arteta in the press conference today. Couple of days left in the window overseas. We'll get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo, things left unsaid, any other headlines before we go, anything else on your mind before we go. Also on the board, I have the feeling that the fourth might hold up a banner we might end up going over. So we'll get Maddie's thoughts as Cruz is in charge of the ones and the twos and show. So we'll get her thoughts coming up in just a little bit because she's got a jet because she's helping out with the Marshall Islands project. Three-letter paper is saying that it's Arteta, Klopp, and Nagelsmann on the short list to replace Xavi at Barcelona. Sport in Spanish. Yeah, he's considering stepping down. No, he's not. Sport likes to stir ish up. Hansi Flick is also being considered by Barca, according to Bild. PSG confident in signing Bruno Guimaraes this summer. PSG and Newcastle interested in a summer move for 24-year-old AC Milan forward Rafael Leao. Brentford beat everybody to the punch, agreed on the £25 million deal with Club Brugge for 18-year-old winger Antonio Nusa. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg from Spurs rejected a move to Lyon, open to leaving Spurs before the end of the window. Luton in talks with Sint-Truiden over a deal to sign 24-year-old Japanese fullback Daiki Hashioka. Liverpool considering a move for Bournemouth technical director Richard Hughes to succeed George Schmadtke, who's stepping down as a part of that mass exodus up top. That's from the four-letter paper. AC Milan have approached Arsenal over a deal for Jakub Kivior. David De Gea, who is still the starting goalkeeper for Without Club FC, is in talks to join Al-Shabaab. Four-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Lille's Jonathan David has emerged as a transfer target for Chelsea. Speaking of Canada, apparently Canadian soccer offered their men's head coaching gig to Hervé Renard. He turned them down. Bayer Leverkusen eyeing a late move for Crystal Palace's Jean-Philippe Mateta, valued at £20 million. Three-letter paper. Fulham expected to make a second bid for Chelsea's Armando Broja after an initial loan offer with an obligation to buy at the end of the season for $25 million was rejected. Villa made their third bid of around $15 million for Middlesbrough's winger Morgan Rogers. Everton interested in Lyon's 22-year-old Irish centre-back Jake O'Brien. Cardiff, Blackburn, and Leeds interested in signing Nat Phillips on loan. Four-letter paper. Greece boss Gus Poyet has emerged as a candidate for the Republic of Ireland job after Lee Carsley indicated he didn't want to leave his role as England U21. West Ham still hope to complete a deal for 19-year-old Ghanaian winger Ibrahim Osman before the deadline, despite having a £15 million bid rejected by Nordsjælland. Three-letter paper. Sunderland in talks with Arsenal over a loan deal for 19-year-old English winger Charles Sago Jr. Chelsea has to sell a player if they want to make any signings before the deadline. Conor Gallagher continuing to attract interest from Spurs. Sunderland have rejected a €16 million, £13.6 offer from an Italian club, reportedly Lazio, for Jack Clark, and do not want to sell him this window. That is from our friend Fabrizio Romano. Lewis Miley, according to Maddie, has signed a new long-term deal. He's like 12 years old. And he's going to be there forever. Let me bring Maddie back in because she's got to go. So 2-minute warning for Maddie. Last thoughts from you before you get out of here, because you got some. If you have a field trip to help out our friends at the Marshall Islands, what's on your mind?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be fun. We're taking some photos to kind of help promote the little scarf, and so it's gonna be a lot of fun. But yeah, excited about the Miley contract. Very excited. I think he's a very, very good player, and I think he's grown a lot, especially with all the injuries. He kind of had to step up. Very, very good. I really like the signing, and I like that we extended it. I mean, honestly, just going back to the whole hooliganism that was that FA Cup, I mean, you kind of nailed it right on the head, John. I mean, it's ridiculous at this point. Like, the fact that players are having to go up there, like, and just move their families out of there, like, come on, guys. Like, this is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, it honestly just needs to be a smackdown on these leagues to be like, all right, if you're going to do this, then no fans are allowed. Like, take that part out. Because, I mean, the fact that it just started from that, like, I get tensions get high. I get it. I understand. But to go as far as assaulting someone in a crowd, causing, like, bodily harm, and, like, forcing players on the pitch to go up into the stands to grab their families to get them to safety, like, that's crazy. Like, come on. Like, at some point, like, you have to have some common sense, but I just don't think that they do. And I don't think that they care, truly.
No.
I think they don't care. I think they truly believe that they can do all this and there shouldn't be any ramifications. I really do.
Yeah, I think they can get away with it until they can't get away with it. All right, go have fun taking pictures, helping out our friends at the Marshall Islands, and we'll catch up with you in the morning.
Absolutely. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
There's Maddie Cruz in the 1s and 2s. And so Maddie is going to go help out a Marshall Islands project. Reminder, $32 for the scarf plus shipping. And that's for domestic. And that's going to help out our friends at the Marshall Islands. Let us know. You can shoot me a DM and we can figure it out. It'll be, Venmo, PayPal, what have you. But $32 for the Marshall Islands scarf. And that will help everything out there. We're starting to get our high school soccer schedule squared away, and it's brought to us by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. And it looks like we're going to start a week from tomorrow. It's going to be Peachtree Ridge and Parkview. From the Big Orange Jungle, Peachtree Ridge and Parkview is going to be the Tuesday night throwdown. Then Roswell and River Ridge will be next Friday. So those are our first 2 games, and we will have everything going on for hot and heavy in February and March and early to mid-April. It's going to be February, March, a 10-week sprint with all of our stuff, a little playoff action as well. And it's going to be fun to do all of the high school games. Once again, Jason's going to do Atlanta Soccer tonight on 92.9 The Game after the Tuesday night games on the network. We might have some other things planned coming up in short order as well. We'll go through some of the other stuff, what to watch, where to watch it. And by the way, USL League One schedule has come out in full today. So if you are looking to kick off your schedule and go and support your favorite USL League One team, Saturday, March the 9th, home openers in Greenville, Lexington, who, by the way, signed Cameron Lancaster to a deal, and Optum Sports Medicine Field at Tormenta Stadium, and Tormenta hosting Central Valley. So Saturday, March the 9th, 7, 7, and 7:30. So Tormenta, home opener. Saturday, March 9, 7:30 at Tormenta Stadium in Statesboro, hosting Central Valley. Lexington and Greenville, 7 o'clock Saturdays. Saturday kickoffs starting March the 9th. USLLeagueONE.com, and they have the full schedule out there for perusal and for ingest and locking everything into your calendars. So what to watch, where to watch it. We mentioned Blackburn and Wrexham as your soccer on TV today. If you missed the AFCON madness earlier in the day, you missed a boatload of stuff earlier in the day. So continue to watch all of that. AFCON and the Asia Cup, crazy. And so you get to this is what happens when you knock out all the cookies in your computer and you have to log back in. All right, so code. So there we go. Yeah, login successful. I would hope so, considering it's my account. All right, so soccer on the TV today. It is, well, like I said, we mentioned AFCON. AFCON, noon and 3. Cape Verde and Mauritania is at noon. Senegal and Ivory Coast is at 3. Follow the madness that is AFCON, and you can do that on fanatisfntz.co/soccer down here. Helps out the network, helps out Fanatis, helps you out with all the craziness. CDO for the fans, Teise, Nuestra Tele, all the BNs, Liga 1 Max, Brasileiro, a lot of different competitions are there and tied into it. So you can follow along there. Being an Espanol, your simulcasters. Fox Soccer Plus, Women's Italian Serie A, Juve and Fiorentina is at noon. FS2, Olympic qualifying, Brazil, Ecuador at 3, Colombia, Venezuela. Venezuela at 6. Deportes has La Liga, Getafe, Granada at 3. Apple TV and MLS Season Pass has the Al Hilal Inter Miami friendly at 10 o'clock. That's got to be 10 o'clock local time, because Al Hilal and Inter Miami at 10 o'clock, that's going to be like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay, we'll check on that. FA Cup, Blackburn Wrexham, 2:30. Getafe Granadas at 3. Iraq and Jordan was nuts this morning. Qatar and Palestine is just underway. You can catch that in the Asian Cup on Paramount Plus. Argentine Premier is at 7. Instituto and Atletico Tucumán, Serie A Salernitana Roma is at 2:45. So that's your rundown of all the things that you can watch and where to watch it. Tom Lockyer visited the Luton training ground after his cardiac arrest. He returned for the first time earlier today. Bayern are refuting suggestions Thomas Tuchel spoke about the Barca job. We'll get into the other rumors coming up in just a little bit. Once again, the window is until the end of the month. Transfer center, Benzema, obviously he ain't happy. And so it will be interesting. Virgil van Dijk. Virgil van Dijk says he's unsure of his Liverpool future after the Klopp exit. Doesn't know if he's going to be hanging around. PSG is confident in signing Bruno Guimaraes. Granada, optimistic they can strike a deal with United to sign Facundo Pellistri before the end of the window. Talks continue with United over a loan. until the end of the year. Lecce made an offer to sign a player from the Turkish league. Porto also understood to be interested in a former Sheffield United player. Roy Hodgson says it would be a sad day if Michael Olise leaves Crystal Palace. It would be, because then they'd have to try and find some more offense. Armando Broja apparently too pricey for Wolves. Wolves still want a striker after letting Sasha Kaladzic go. Not prepared to pay Chelsea the current asking price for Broja. They've also been interested in Danny Ings, Che Adams, and Hugo Ekitike. West Ham, and when the talks on Ibrahim Osman have stalled with Nordsjælland over the asking price. They've had other targets up front this month like Steven Bergwijn and Jack Clark. Calvin Phillips on loan will help them as a good piece of business. Spurs remain interested in Conor Gallagher, by the way, as a part of all of that discussion. Swansea signed Brazilian winger Ronald for £1.5 million from Grêmio, playing on loan in Portugal. But Ronald has signed with Swansea. So good news for all of that. Busy deadline day for Nottingham Forest. By the way, did you see this? We mentioned last week where Nottingham Forest have like 11 billion players and LAFC only have like 17. Nottingham Forest apparently is willing to cut short Divock Origi's loan from AC Milan to let him go to LAFC, while there's also interest in Nico Williams, Oral Mangala, Scott McKenna, Joe Worrell, and Jonathan Penzo. Among their forward targets, Dortmund's Gio Reyna and Carlos Forbes from Ajax. But Divock Origi possibly to LAFC. Keep an eye on that. They'll be up to like 18 players then. Newcastle has to sell to buy. Have to keep an eye on that. Trying hard to make room for a new midfielder, but also on the cards, remember Miguel Almiron will keep an eye on that. Callum Wilson, keep an eye on that. Denied Eddie Howe in the press conference. They've approached Villa to sign Jacob Ramsey as a new midfielder. Roberto De Zerbi has admitted his admiration for Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, but insists he won't talk about the Leicester midfielder because of his relationship with Fox's boss Enzo Maresca. And so keep an eye on that. Ipswich signed Ali Al-Hamadi from AFC Wimbledon. Undisclosed fee, long-term deal. Good news for the Dons. I think that's it for the morning. Let's see. Transfer. Nothing in the Wilson rumors. Ten Hag says the Rashford absence, by the way, is an internal matter. No real surprise there. Darren Moore sacked by Huddersfield Town after just 4 months in charge, as they're at the bottom of the table and they're trying not to get relegated down to League One. A dramatic winner for Guinea gets the win over Equatorial Guinea at 90+8. Guinea's through to the quarterfinals of AFCON after that 1-0 win, and that was late yesterday. And Egypt out after Congo's number one wins in the penalty shootout, 8-7 in penalties, keeper on keeper. In AFCON quarters, Abu Gabal clipped the crossbar with his effort. Lionel Impasi scores to send the Congo through. DR Congo over Egypt. So much for Mo Salah hanging out and being needed for the remainder of the tournament. So we'll see what happens there. But very, very busy morning on a bunch of different fronts. Thanks to all of you for hanging out with us. Philadelphia Union finalizing a deal to loan Brendan Craig to El Paso Locomotive to get him minutes. That comes from Tommy Scoops, by the way. So we'll keep an eye on all of that. Once again, remember that we're going to be back at it again 9:05 in the morning, and it's going to be a very, very busy week. We have interviews across the board. Well, obviously, Dylan Butler joining us on Wednesday. The show Thursday will be from Auburn because I've got date night Wednesday. So Thursday morning will be from a hotel room in Auburn, and we will have Nico dropping by at 10:30. Hopefully, our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring at 9:30, and rolling through for the remainder of the week. So it's another week as we get you ready for Athens, and we'll see if we can get some preview material going on Friday. But keep an eye on all of our social media platforms. High school soccer schedule announced, now being announced starting a week from tomorrow. Peachtree Ridge and Parkview from the Big Orange Jungle. That'll be a part of the 10-week sprint that is the high school soccer season here on SDH. Might have some other things to talk about too, but we are helping out our friends at the Marshall Islands as well. $32 for the scarf, plus shipping and handling, another $5 maybe to help them out. It'll be also on their website coming up in short order too. So thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us. Thanks to Maddie. Thanks to Drew. Thanks to Bart. Thanks to Jarrett. Thanks to you. Very, very busy Monday. First reaction Monday of the 2024 season. And we always got a lot to talk about, and we will continue to do so. Back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning. Mucho plati, I'll play it safe, and since it's the end of the show, that means I get to do this. Be back at it again in a little under 22 hours. Play it safe. We'll see you tomorrow.